Hello class. As stated in this week's lecture, the idea of thin and thick client has been around for decades. Thin client means that most of the computing power is located on the server, when the client only provides an interface to it. The idea behind thick client is to keep a significant portion of computing on the client side. Servers may also use computing power, but the system cannot rely on servers only. We are to argue which one we're in favor of, than a thick client approach to software architecture. I myself, I'm in favor of the thin client approach. So let's dive into the thin client option. Clients, also known as service requesters, are pieces of computer hardware or server software that request resources and services made available by a server. Client computing is classified as thick, thin, or hybrid. In this week's discussion post, I settled on the thin client approach. A thin client is a computer system that runs on a server-based compute environment. They work by connecting to a remote server-based environment where most applications and data is stored. The advantage for the user is that a thin client computer is cheaper to buy. Software is always kept up to date by the provider and is often at no cost. Thin clients are arguably more secure, as data is not held locally and the responsibility for backup is with the company storing the data. Thin client deployment is more cost effective than deploying regular PCs. Because so much is centralized at the server side, thin client computing can reduce IT support and licensing costs. Security can be improved through employing thin clients because the thin client itself is restricted by the server. System monitoring and management is easier based on a centralized server location. Thin clients can also be simpler to manage since upgrades, security policies, and more can be managed in the data center instead of the endpoint machines. This leads to less downtime, increasing productivity among IT staff, as well as endpoint machine users. In contrast, the thick clients are expensive to deploy. However, thin client also has a disadvantage because it needs to be connected to the internet. There's also a requirement for a decent amount of bandwidth as more data is transferred between the client and the server. The last option is hybrid, which possesses a combination of thin client and thick client characteristics. The hybrid client relies on the server to store persistent data, but is capable of local processing. Web-based approach. A browser-based approach to using thin clients means that an ordinary device connected to the internet carries out its application functions within a web browser instead of a remote server. Data processing is done on the thin client machine, but software and data are retrieved from the network. In terms of client-side processing, information is fed by the computer user and then sent to the server. A web browser will format a web page according to the HTML tags and CSS styling rules that have been sent to it by the server in response to a request for a web page. HTML pages can also include scripts, which is programs written in the high-level scripting languages such as JavaScript. These scripts can carry out the tasks such as validating from data to creating dynamic page features. Scripts are interpreted by the web browser. This means no extra translation software is required on the client computer. On the server side, the information requested by the computer is used as processed. For instance, after receiving the request, The web server returns to the generated HTML to the web browser along with a HTTP status code of 200, which is success. If anything goes wrong, error code is returned. If the information is related to data or dynamic pages, it is sent to the PHP interpreter. Server-side scripts are stored on the server and are processed on the server, so are completely hidden from the client. Thank you.